progetto, oltre ad avere Materiali ovviamente come promotore e partner principale, ha un'altra serie di soggetti che hanno tutti a che fare col mondo dell'apprendimento, della pedagogia, a scale molto diverse che vanno dall'aspetto universitario, siamo dentro un'accademia e in particolare a un corso di design col quale Materiali ha dialogato in questi mesi, fino a Reggio Children, che penso conosciate tutti e che qui è rappresentata da Camilla Cantadori, che sta facendo un dottorato di ricerca che poi vi racconterà, e un'altra serie di partner, tra cui il Fiorenzo Omenetto di Silk Lab, che sentirete fra poco, la Weizmann School of Design di Filadelfia, sperando di riuscire a far girare il video di Laia se avremo il tempo di farlo. Ma perché tutti questi soggetti? Perché noi vogliamo cercare di imparare a vedere, come io nei 20 anni che frequento Reggio Children, e di questo sono a loro estremamente grato, ho cercato di imparare a vedere con occhi diversi. Gli occhi diversi sono quelli dei bambini, quindi questa mostra ha una doppia prospettiva, se volete, cioè cercare di raccontare ai bambini, ma cercare anche, senza essere ingenui o credersi di potersi mettere al loro posto, ma di raccontare con gli occhi dei bambini, perché noi dobbiamo tornare a vedere delle cose che apparentemente sono complesse, ma che si possono, una volta investiti, diciamo, con questi occhiali nuovi, vedere in una maniera diversa. Questo penso che l'avrete avuto tutti da bambini, perché Eric Carle della storia del bruco è la storia di come la natura produce metamorfosi, cicli, trasformazioni. Qui poi finisce con una farfalla, ma poi la farfalla diventerà qualcosa d'altro, perché è giusto avere un lieto fine, ma quello che ci insegna la Circular Economy è che il lieto fine è nel movimento stesso, no? Nella capacità, diciamo, di trasformare continuamente le cose. Allora, per inquadrare il senso di questa mostra, credo che dobbiamo prendere delle scale rispetto alle quali non siamo molto abituati, e questo col bambino ho imparato a farlo, cioè una visione del tempo che non è quella della nostra comfort zone in cui siamo abituati a stare, ahimè sempre più corto e sempre più rapido, ma è il tempo lungo, no? Prima c'era Zanuso che fa legni millenari, quindi tempo lungo, perché i cicli non avvengono in tempo breve, hanno bisogno a volte di respiri secolari, per non dire millenari. E poi dall'altra parte siamo abituati a comprendere ciò che abbiamo davanti agli occhi, mentre invece l'economia circolare è fatto anche di passaggi che sono invisibili o di dimensioni progettuali, chimiche, vitali, come i funghi, come i batteri, che non siamo abituati a leggere. Quindi noi dobbiamo uscire dalla nostra comfort zone e imparare a muoverci, no? Dentro, diciamo, queste 4 grandi famiglie che non sono esaustive di tutto ciò che chiaramente può fare parte dell'economia circolare, perché abbiamo provato a posizionare su questi assi che diventano delle occasioni di racconto, diventano delle occasioni di dialogo, che è quello che poi ci auguriamo si possa davvero fare, perché oggi abbiamo lavorato a tavolino. Conversation in English. Okay, so I don't go back, but I go forward. Che non va più. Devo fare andare avanti tu, non so. These are just examples of people that are used to live in a world which is much more organic than what we are used to intend as world. These are people that built a bridge using the trees in the rainforest, and this takes hundreds of years. It's not something that you do in a weekend. So we have to change our glasses, as I said before, and we have to learn to see time and the visibility of space is different perception. Otherwise, circular economy will never exist. It will be always greenwashing and something maybe very exciting, but not existing and not affecting the reality of every day. And also there are some heroes, because when you talk to children, it's very important, you know, to make something that become a reference. Also, it doesn't mean that this is the only reference. The reference you will see are never ending. But for example, this is one of my heroes, is a man that half of the past 2 centuries ago, more or less, started to draw and to see the invisible. when in the microscope was not possible to take a picture, but we had to draw what we were seeing. And he was seeing algae, bacteria, mushrooms, in a way that is totally fantastic, honestly, no? Because probably he saw much more than what was really there. And this is what we have to learn to do in the next years. No? Or in the history of Italian design, and this was important, also it was a sort of forcing. There are people, no, like the people that designed the Pratone, that use the power, the iconic power, no, of nature to do something maybe totally different from what is the original meaning of a grass lawn. But this is important because, again, if we want to have a future that has to be different from now, we have to give a strong aesthetic, a perceptual language that if organic economy is not able to build, will never exist. No? So I believe our goal is this in this exhibition. No? And for example, today also if you go in the metaverse or whenever you want to go in the augmented reality, there are people that are already working on this organic imaginary and something that is maybe impossible to exist, but this is inspired, and art is much more advanced than design, and this should be unique to do this. So our, just to finish, provocation was, let's try to believe in new gods. Let's try to imagine that these poor families of strange things become our new religion. And the joke was to go back, as always, to go ahead and look into the future. You have to step back, otherwise there is no future if you're not able to connect, like in the new economy, past practices and approaches and what should be done next. So we took the metaphor of the saint into bells, something campana, which is something coming in between the religious and the not religious, let's say, because these were saints built to stay at home and to protect your everyday life. And we use this metaphor to build these four families that are represented then in those closets in the entrance of prayer, that are four imaginaries, but also four ways to practically do circular economy, from things that are very prototypical, from things that are much more industrial. So this is the idea, and this is the beginning. You can go just ahead because I have no time to stop on this, but to start to create a vision in a world that to me has no vision today, has no capability really to connect the past to the future. And children are our keys. Children are the eyes that we need in order to do this, and they are also the people we want to talk in order to really build this future. So this is the beginning of something according to what we did and to the partner that we engage into this process. We had to run up because this is the design week, but I believe that in the next months, with the contribution of the first people we grab here and the next we can join, this will grow. So now I will ask to Fiorenzo Omenetto, if it is connected, right, to explain briefly what he's doing, because he is also a mentor of Camilla. He's a person that from Italy moved to the US, bringing the expertise we also had in Italy about silk, and doing something that probably we are not used to imagine when we speak about silk.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Less of a pleasure to be actually here in Boston rather than in Milano. And I'm mindful of the time that I have. I just want to make a few points. I really appreciated the discussion in the previous talk that connected sort of like the histories of the past, and you know, like this millennia-old wood from Zanuso to contemporary applications of today. And I believe that there is a lot of surprise that comes from looking around and looking at things that do surround us. And I apologize because I'm going to go very fast because I understand that we are late. So I run a lab in Boston here that is a biomaterials lab, and really our goals are to think about what materials can do impact, and imagine really how we can make some positive change for the world, and for the world as we live it today. And so really try to put together technology and biology and put them close together with applications across multiple fields. Really, what we believe is in well, in Giulio's words, is to look at the world with different eyes, maybe with children's eyes, and I know that Miss Cantadori will speak about how to maybe introduce these themes in education later. But we really take inspiration from nature. Nature has a lot of tricks and has a lot of sophisticated materials that we more often than not take for granted. The story in the lab is that we connect the dots, and then an audience that is at the Salone and at Design Week in Milan really, you know, I'll go into fashion. You know, this is a fashion runway. This is our runway, and it's the runway of farms from silk. And this is you know, an example of design. I own the car on the left, not the car on the right. And this is the context of where the materials come from. And this is a story that maybe rivals a little bit what Danusa was telling about, and the silk has been around for 5,000 years. And so we try to bring together silk, design, discovery, sustainability, all these things, and interweave them really in one unique material. We have a really we have been surprised about the material, and we're surprised about from a lot of other biomaterials. And the key message is that we don't use silk as a textile, but we use it as a polymer. And so instead of using fabric, we use the fabric that comes directly from silkworms, or fabric that is discarded, and then we break it down and turn it into the liquid, which is the same thing that the worm has. And then we use the liquid to put silk back together. And what is surprising about doing that is that the material is water-based, so it's a polymer that doesn't obviously use petrochemicals. The process is the materials that you get are edible, they're implantable, they're resorbable. There's a very concrete sustainability argument around this, in spite of a lot of indices that are used today. And the materials are, you know, you can eat them, and they're bioactive. So the materials contain biology that is preserved, which is very unusual. And this makes materials completely different. In fact, you know, when in the previous conversation, when the talk was about the beauty of materials that change with a reference to the desk that is there, we believe very much in how these materials can interact with the world around them and provide a lot of useful information and a lot of surprises. So this is we don't use silk as a textile, as I said. We use it as a polymer, water-based, edible, implantable, resorbable, and this is a library of the things that we've done, from plastic films, roll to roll, to inks that react to emotions, to 3D printed formats, to electronics that you can eat, to large-scale printed devices, etc., etc. So what does that have to do with design? What does that have to do with the future? There's certainly elements that you can do that are beautiful, and you could do at scale, made for transforming these materials into beautiful tactile objects. But why is it important, and what do we care about? Really, we care about the impact in the end of the world and on our waste streams. And the examples that I want to give are certainly related to textiles, and how we take all the textiles that are thrown away, such as all the silk that we get in the lab, and turn them into dyes that are very sustainable, and that can be and materials that can be reused and recycled, and lead into shirts like this, where the inks are printed. These are silk inks that respond to you. So when you wear this shirt, it tells you how your body is performing, what is happening, how your temperature is, and if there are any health concerns, you can turn them into very, very large objects that can be responsive, that can tell you the pollution of the room, if there's a toxin in the air, or if you should leave a room because there's an amassing of sensing. And these can become really interesting sensors that can be incorporated into clothes, into gloves, and sense if there is COVID, if you have the early signs of cervical cancer or breast cancer, and so on and so forth. So this comes from that same protein that is in the worm. You can make solid formats, you can make objects, again, from materials that are all water derived and that come from waste. And you can do things that are very, that are very interesting because you can eat. You can start looking at things that are of planetary impact, like, for example, reducing food waste, where you can make really tiny coatings of silk that now, as I told you, can be consumed, and you can preserve fruit, for example, like strawberries, for weeks outside of the refrigerator. And you can do this for drugs and other things like that. So things that have some meaning. And I want to say that we can dream all of these applications, but if you don't have the pragmatics, if you don't generate revenue, and if you don't actually deliver on these promises, they're just talk. And we see a lot of capsule collections of materials that are supposed to be substitutes, but it's very hard to substitute technology, because technology is not all bad. So the point is that you do have to provide function, you do have to provide a credible path of sustainability and credible outcomes that can be of impact. And I'm actually proud to say that some of these things now are really of social importance. I'll just use the food as an example. So we use the use of silk for preservation of food now is in major department stores and in major grocery stores in the United States today. So we're talking about large volumes of scale-up approvals and making a commodity good that has been used for millennia in wear into something that breaks the circularity, I would say, and goes beyond into unexpected applications, which is what we really care. What we really care about. I want to conclude this ultra rapid, super fast talk by saying that I think that our imagination will guide us through these things, and looking with the eyes of a kid, looking at nature, educating and changing the way that we educate to observe how nature operates in these contexts is very amazing. And I think that materials got us in the mess that the planet is in today, and I think that naturally derived materials will help us get out of it. I think that sustainability does not mean that something is not profitable, but you have to invest in innovation, and I think you have to be very honest about what sustainability means. So you have to make something that is really sustainable and not just that says that it is. Waste streams are going to be a potential enormous opportunity as primary materials, and new technologies are coming, and there is a lot that we can do with what we have today. But while we wait for the technical innovation, I think this is a context that we need to pay attention to, and we do have to lead by example here and in this Fuorisalone here, and in this in this context that is very riddled of art and design. I would say that leading by example means being pragmatic about what we do, but also make it feel good, make it look good, so that we have an emotional attachment to it and make it be good. And with that, I thank you very much for your attention, and I hope for an extended commitment to help save the world that we live in.
Thank you, Fiorenzo. Thank you very much. If you go in the closet, there are many of the samples that Fiorenzo mentioned in his talk. And I believe what he's doing is really unbelievable, because he's really transforming silk in something totally different from what is our basic imaginary about silk, and with a lot of potential. But I will leave the stage to Camilla Cantadori, because she's the connector. She's the one representing Reggio. She's doing Ph.D. about this topic, so I believe she can answer a lot of things about children, to explain what basically are children and the arts of children.
So I'm very happy for being here tonight. Thank you for being you here. So yes, my presentation is about my PhD project that is around children, the spaces where they stay, biology, and in its broadest interpretation. So is a path to see how education should be in the future, and especially how the classroom should look like in the future. So what I think is most important today for education is to make the children able to think and to learn how to connect things that are apparently very distant each other. So I see these aesthetic, this powerful aesthetic all around biology, and in particular from bacteria, algae, fungi, insects, and the way they contribute to give us material through biofabrication methods and biodesign approach. So we can see bricks from algae, or 3D object from, bacteria, 3D object from algae, or mycelium bricks from fungi, and soluble dispositive from silk, or chitosan from the exoskeleton of insects. So I see also this powerful aesthetic until the architectural level. And here I have some projects that I'm following to be inspired in rethinking education, learning spaces, and the way children learn. So I have Aguaroya, which is entirely made with chitosan, and then we have Alive, which is made with a plant-based material. And the project wants to make people think about how much we are connected with microorganisms that can live inside this material. And then Hi-Fi Tower, which is made entirely with mycelium brick, and an example of a museum in Mexico that is entirely interconnected with the forest. And finally, Steel Pavilion, that impressed me for the way how Seachrome and technology collaborates for build the structure. I'm sorry. So what I see here in this whole scene of progress is that going back in time for a while, in a piece of history of our country, when the kindergartens were rebuilt in Reggio Emilia after the Second War, the rebuild was very impressive because the kindergarten were made very beautiful, welcoming, and as a center for create connection for all the people in the community. And here we see some example, because something that was very controversial for the time that they did was to make inside the kindergarten the atelier. So a space, you know, here better than me, a space for art, make a personal expression, exploration. And so what is my point today? What are the next architecture? What the learning need for the future? is a conjugation of all of these things, from the architecture to the way the children learn and experience their ways. And so we are, with this wonderful theme that we have tonight here, we are trying to explore a new kind of environment where the children can stay. And we have two models for now, so a wall and a table. So the first model, the wall, was born with the name of the wall of biomaterial. So not so static as you see in the picture, but you have to guess in a very dynamic way, full of different material inserted in the structure, where the kids can explore and experience the material. While the table is a very long, with different areas for the kids to experience biofabrication methods. And we see in this environment different keywords that can describe this environment, and are here in the list. So to run this activity, I did some workshop in Viva Materia Lab at Biblioteca degli Alberi di Milano, and it was strictly connected with Vivarium. So we made the kids exploring bioplastic or mycelium brick. And then I did in Fondazione Reggio Children, so we have a very special guest. Okay, sorry. So we did another workshop with kids, and something that was very interesting was a girl said, "Let's talk Aberese." So a way that we need to speak with nature, and we are almost done. So this was another project made with kids, and so you see again the second slide I show you was the draw made by a group of kids, redesigning, rethinking the classroom. So I made the kids a question: if you could reimagine your classroom as a living classroom.
Camilla, thank you very much for your contribution. And thank you, Fiorenzo. Thank you.